It's the Padres wrap-up show once again with John and Jim. And if you're looking for year-round Padres content, this is the place to go. Subscribe, hit that button down below. If you like our content, give us a thumbs up. And also follow us on social media, on Twitter, at John Schaefer, at Jim Russell SD. So really a fascinating look today by The Athletic, by Ken Rosenthal and Dennis Lin and Eno Saris, writing Inside the Padres Collapse. General manager under scrutiny after club crumbles down the stretch. And then there's a report within the article, Jim, and it's a fascinating look. I mean, it's such a deep dive. But there is a quote from a former employee that says this: there are some deep-rooted cultural problems there. It's not always inviting to people with different ideas, perspectives, or backgrounds, and it's not all the fault of the people who are gone either. It's pervasive. So, again, another day, another damning article related to the Padres. A lot of this is a deep dive into AJ Preller's tenure, Jim, with the Padres. I guess initially, what was your thought when you read through this? Which, I mean, it's thousands of words. It's a remarkable look at the state of the Padres organization right now.
My first thought, obviously, this is not good. This is a situation now where you're getting pulled behind the curtain a little bit more, and you're seeing just really how many problems there are with this franchise. And I don't know where they're turning to. I don't know where they're going to turn. I don't know how this is going to be fixed. It just seems like whenever there's a problem, AJ Preller just gets more yes men. And AJ Preller is gaining so much power within this organization. And he's not willing to change at all. How are things going to change? Yes, teams could have good years with a dysfunctional front office. It happens all the time. But the whole thing is you want to have sustained success with this franchise, and you want to have a front office that is all on the same page, and you want to have a front office that works well with the players and the coaches and the manager. And right now, that's not even close to happening.
No, you're right. I mean, this is there's so much in here. I think it confirms a lot of what we've been saying. I mean, what we've been saying is that he doesn't like a lot of dissenting voices in the room, that Jace Tingler was hired primarily to serve as an outlet of the general manager and the front office.
Yep.
That the tenure, this tenure of AJ Preller, if you read this article and what we've said, hasn't been as successful as maybe some would lead you to believe. I mean, we know this. We look at the on-field results.
Right.
And they haven't been very good. Shoot, by the end of this article, they even posed the question of whether it's worth running back in 2022 or if Preller has the capital to start some type of rebuild, which would run right in the face of what Peter Seidler has said, right in the face of all these contracts that you've signed, including the one with Manny Machado. They went on to say, if you want to pull up your next tweet, Jim, because I thought this was fascinating as well. One former staffer said, every one of us has a blind side, a weakness we don't see. You'd better get people around you to cover those weaknesses. And what he is consistently doing is removing the people who tell him he has a weakness and going to people who will not speak back to him about his weaknesses. And then it said that that's basically Jace Tingler. That's the role that he has served as manager of the Padres. So, we mentioned Dave Cameron. They hired a couple of years ago from Fangraphs that the only publicized hire that AJ Preller has made of a dissenting voice. And it sounds like some of the moves they've made more recently here in the firings and reorganization are more getting alignment of people that AJ Preller's worked with the Texas Rangers or in the Padres organization and really putting it more towards what they've been doing as opposed to making any type of discernible change.
And if this is how he wants to run this organization, that's fine. He can do whatever he wants. But it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. There has never been a proven formula where you don't have multiple people in the room with different ideas, or at least people in the room who are willing to push back a little bit. Yes, there's one goal. That's to win a World Series. But if you don't have people in that room with different ideas, or people in the room with, hey, instead of looking here, maybe we should look over here, then you're going to have major problems. And we're seeing it in this article. There's major problems in that organization because AJ Preller, whoever comes up to him and disagrees with him or has a different mindset or whatever it may be, they're gone. That's not good. Not good at all. And if you
No,
want to have a winning organization, you can't have that. I don't care if you have Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani or if Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr. are all on the same team. Like, yeah, they can maybe persevere a couple seasons, but eventually the amount of discord in that front office will trickle down and cause a blow up, and things will not be good.
and then the problem is, as this article mentions, we've been talking about this for weeks. I mean, I think a lot of the content that we've had either on this YouTube channel or on Extra 1360 on the wrap-up show following Padres games, I think we've been very accurate when we've said, listen, if you're trying to hone in on a veteran manager, someone like a Bruce Bochy or a Ron Washington or a Buck Showalter, there's reasons to believe that that could be beneficial, but there's also reasons to believe that that style of manager wouldn't want to work for AJ Preller based on the way this organization is run right now. In fact, this Athletic article confirming what we've said before, that Bruce Bochy, from their estimation, would be unlikely in this current structure to want to work for AJ Preller. Now, Ron Washington, I don't know. He's been a third base coach now with Atlanta. He was a finalist for this job. He's got a familiarity with AJ Preller. Maybe that's more realistic. Buck Showalter obviously managed Manny Machado. Maybe that would play a role in the decision for Showalter or for the organization. But when you read this and when you look at the way the team has played, 11-32 in their last 43 games, 11-32, winless in 9 games against the Dodgers over the last 2 months, epic collapse after epic collapse. The regular season ends on Sunday. They are 3 days away from more massive change. And Dennis Lin predicted this, right? The organizational reckoning weeks and weeks and weeks ago, regardless of the outcome. We've seen some changes already, and seemingly more are coming. And I think it will initially start with the manager based on what we're reading here today.
So going back to the quote in the article about Bruce Bochy, this is a quote from someone, I don't know who, but there's no fucking way Bochy goes in and deals with all that. There's no way. Bochy's not coming here. Like, it's not happening.
Yeah.
If Tingler is gone, which we all think he is and probably should be, do you think that Preller is going to hire a guy that will push back at all? Maybe, but the more you read this article, it's like, there's no way Preller wants to get anybody in here that's going to push back or have their own ideas or say, you know what, I don't want to do that. No way. It's either Preller or you're gone. There's no in between. There's no working together. Preller is a micromanager, and micromanagers are the worst people to work for. Trust me. You know it too. Everybody knows it. You work with a micromanager, there's going to be a breaking point. And Preller is the ultimate micromanager, and he is ruining this franchise because of it. He is not letting people have their own ideas. He is not letting people, push back at all. He doesn't want anybody from the outside coming in to push back against his way of thinking. It's either Preller or you're gone.
Yeah, no, I think what you said is accurate. And then I think he's got enough capital with Peter Seidler and the ownership group where he can still orchestrate the path of this organization moving forward. He obviously has that wide sweeping power based on what's happened here over the last couple of weeks, the reorganizational structuring. I think the question for me is, in 2022, do you continue down this path with this core of players or not? I mean, it was shocking to me for it to just be even considered late in this article that they would make some type of change with the core of this team. I mean, all we've talked about is building this thing up to be a legitimate on-field product at the big league level. We saw it, albeit briefly, in 2020. But the idea of tearing this thing down, and I don't know if they went that far, but even the idea of moving some of these core parts to free up capital, because you got $140 million already tied up in 2022, it doesn't give you a lot of flexibility. It really doesn't. Of course, you can add a piece here or there. You can move a player here or there. But is it going to be enough in 2022, even with a Ron Washington in this example? If you finish 30 games out, and by the way, if they're swept by the Giants this weekend, they finish 30 games out of first place. So regardless of what happens, they're finishing 27 or more games out, right? We all agree they'll probably lose this series against the Giants. Can any change make up that type of distance, not just against one team, but two? And nobody would be on board, though. I don't care if you're 30 games out or 300 games out. Nobody would be on board based on the last decade of tearing this thing back down to try to build it back up when Peter Seidler has said as recently as the last year, this is our decade.
I mean, you can make changes. And yes, I think that there's changes that could be made that would work. And I think that if you had healthier players that all performed at least up to their level or close to their level with a couple guys overperforming, then yeah, things would absolutely change. And I don't think you'd be in this situation and you'd be firmly contending for a playoff spot. But it goes back to, do you trust? And we did a video earlier on, if you want to go to our YouTube channel and check it out. Do you trust AJ Preller to make the right moves? You know, early in the article, it talked about what happened in the 2019 season where he traded away Franmil Reyes, a big part of that clubhouse, and everybody was completely blindsided by it. And he tried to do the same thing this year with Eric Hosmer. It didn't work this year, but in 2019 it did. And you saw what that clubhouse did after Franmil left. It was horrible. Everybody was pissed. And then they went in the tank. Now, they were going in the tank before Franmil Reyes' trade, so I don't think like that was the deciding factor, but that was a big reason why everybody just gave up at the end of the 2019 season. And Preller does this. He'll make moves without telling anybody. He'll just be like, yeah, we're doing this. And everyone's like, wait, what are we doing? We just talked about this for 2 hours and now you're changing your mind and we're doing something different. So like, do I trust AJ Preller to make the right moves and bring in the right pieces and bring in the right players and bring in players that are going to stay healthy and hire the right coaching staff and hire the right analytic department? Absolutely, I don't. They could get lucky. Like I said, you could have guys on a team have a really good season and you could luck in to a playoff, or you could luck in to having a great year like the Giants are having right now. But with the Giants, I see that as a situation where you're going to have sustained success because of the front office and Gabe Kapler and that coaching staff and the developmental department. With the Padres, if they ended up winning 98 games next year, do I think that's going to turn into a decade of success with Preller at the helm? Absolutely not. I'll just look at that as guys had really good years, but I don't trust Preller to sustain the success because this dude had such a big ego that he's going to try to do something stupid and he's going to ruin it all.
Well, I was amazed by, like, to further that point, the acknowledgement in the article, and I forget who it was by, but basically the acknowledgement that they don't consider what a move could mean for the clubhouse dynamic. And is that ever
Right.
more evident than what's happened in 2021, just like
No.
2019 with Franmil? But the idea that they were considering a Nelson Cruz to replace an Eric Hosmer, the idea that they were trying to even move Eric Hosmer, the idea that, publicly, they were involved in Max Scherzer and then they land no starting pitching. Like, how is this landing in the clubhouse is not being considered? And you think that there's a lot of teeth to that when you look at the way the team played in the second half. So it's more than just, oh, they were unlucky and, oh, we've been playing really hard and, oh, we're just not playing good baseball. No. What's happening at these deadlines is not sitting well with what's happening within that clubhouse. And also because Jace Tingler has that close tie to AJ Preller, when the players don't get what they want at a deadline, it's also seen as they didn't get it from Tingler. It's not like us versus them. The problem is there's a them in the clubhouse. And Jace Tingler, that's not necessarily Jace's fault. His ties to AJ Preller. He didn't hire himself for this job. But if he's a yes man to AJ, and then the clubhouse didn't get what they wanted from AJ at the deadline, Tingler is going to be seen as someone that is opposing what their wishes. And then we heard from Will Myers yesterday. I know Marty had him up in LA. And you can find it on her YouTube channel as well, Marty Caswell. I mean, she asked Will Myers specifically about Jace Tingler, about changes, and it was unbelievable what he really didn't say in reaction.
Right.
He said, yeah, change happens a lot when you don't win. And yeah, if change happens, change happens.
Whatever.
Obviously, I'm paraphrasing, but he had no public defense of Jace Tingler. None of these players, you tweeted this out yesterday. We talked about it last night on the wrap-up show. None of these players publicly back Jace Tingler. They don't even mention his name. We haven't heard his name mentioned from a player in months. So for whatever reason, that alone is telling and tells you how a lot of these players feel about the situation currently within that clubhouse.
Yeah. When's the last time a player back Jace Tingler. I can't remember. I can't even remember when someone even mentioned his name or said, "Hey, yeah, we're behind Tang and we think he's done a good job. It's on us, the players, to perform better." But you know, Tingler's done really good with us. Like none of that, and that falls back to AJ Preller hiring this guy who it's been a disaster. There's no other way to put it. Like this season has been a disaster and it's caused so much friction and so much tension with everybody because no one expected to be where they are. Yes, the players have all the blame in the world for how they performed. But when the players are doing this, knowing that they have a front office who won't communicate with them and at any moment could get rid of a clubhouse leader in Eric Hosmer without any type of communication about it, could get rid of a guy like Franmil Reyes without any notice, makes moves that people are wondering why did he make that move? He's never around like at all. He's always out on the road scouting, which maybe he should do that instead. Maybe he should become a scout instead of a GM. Maybe that's something he would excel at instead of being a GM. Because right now, being a GM, he's failing miserably at it. Like that's an understatement. He's going to go in to his 8th season with 0 winning seasons in a full 162 game year under his belt. That is, if I don't know if that's not a fireable offense, I don't know what is. Going
Well, it's
8
not.
years.
But it's not because he's got, I mean, he definitely has, we know this. He's got 2022. This article only further confirmed that. AJ Preller isn't going anywhere. You can analyze his decision-making process and where he has this organization. AJ Preller will be at the helm. Will he relinquish power? Remains to be seen. We both see it as unlikely. And if he doesn't relinquish power, what results do you get in 2022? The change based on the results you've got in the last half decade or more.
And we talk about relinquishing power, and we mean bringing in the GM to
From the outside.
Right. That's not happening. That's not happening. He's only going to elevate someone inside the organization who is of one mind of him, who is a yes man, and put them in the GM role so AJ Preller can control that person. That's the move that would be made. And everyone's like, oh, he hired a GM. Well, guess what? He did not hire anybody new. It's the same voice, just in a different role.
Will it be a Black Monday or not within the Padres organization? We will be here for you. We'll be back on Monday recapping the final weekend of the Padres regular season and looking ahead to the changes that are coming. If you want year-round Padres content, that's why you'd subscribe to this channel. Hit that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up if you like this content as well. And follow us on Twitter at John Schaefer, at Jim Russell SD. You've been watching the wrap-up show here on our YouTube channel.